Welcome back to another episode of How I Cook. I'm Steven and Frederick. It's been quite a few weeks since I last did a recipe, but it's been a busy summer. I have two great recipes for you. Now that it's August and there's lots of great corn on the cob, we're going to do some corn fritters and we're going to do a cola cake. In this case, it's going to be a Pepsi cake, but you can use your favorite cola. All right, let's begin. This is for people with a sweet tooth. It's very sweet, it's very caloric, and it's very delicious. So we're going to start with a cup of softened butter. That's 2 sticks. And a cup and a half of sugar. We're going to cream that. Creaming is just mixing. Okay, we've creamed the sugar and the butter. You can see. Now we're going to add some more ingredients. Some vanilla, teaspoon. Milk, half a cup of milk. I'm using 2% milk in this case. And 2 eggs. And we'll mix all that together. Next, we're going to start adding some dry ingredients. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm putting it through a sieve to sift it. It's a real easy way to sift it. I remember when I was a little kid, my mother and my grandmother would have the thing with the handle and you would shake it. This does a really good job. What it's doing is just breaking up all those clumps that there are in flour that we really don't want or need. There we go. Some baking soda. That was 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and this is 4 tablespoons of cocoa. So baking soda and cocoa. Sifting it all through. The cocoa really has a lot of clumps. So I'm mixing in the dry ingredients in with the wet. You can see it's quite thick and all the powder is not incorporated. Scrape all that powder down. Mix it in with your hands. Well, your hand spatula. And it's still quite thick. Next, we're going to add the cola. As I said, in this case, Pepsi. A cup of Pepsi. It's not going to taste like Pepsi, the cake itself, but it does add something. The flavor. It's a really delicious chocolate cake, and the Pepsi or the cola just brings out something in it. And mix in the Pepsi. Going to scrape it down. I don't get any reimbursement from Pepsi, but if they want to, Pepsi cake. And here is 2 cups of mini marshmallows. I told you, this is for people with a sweet tooth. It's a delicious cake, but it's very sweet. I'm just doing this by hand, incorporating the marshmallows. Baking pan. batter into the pan. It smells fabulous. I'm gonna tap it in case there's any air bubbles. And there we have it. Now the oven has been preheating, 350. We're gonna put it in the oven. I'll check it after 30 minutes and then I'll continue to check it until it's done. Okay, I'm gonna take the cake out of the oven. It's been around 45 minutes. I checked it at 30 minutes. It was still jiggly. You know how it is, and you know it's not ready. I've checked it, so it's time to come out. Look at how ooey and gooey that is because of the marshmallows. That needs to sit for quite a while to cool down, but we're going to start making the icing. This also has Pepsi in it. I need a half a cup of Pepsi. If it's a little more, it's okay. And we're going to microwave this. We want this to get warm. I'll explain in a minute. So I have 4 cups of powdered sugar here, pouring this into a bowl. Next, we're going to put the cola, in this case Pepsi, into the powdered sugar. By heating the Pepsi, it's going to make this more creamy and less gritty. So here's our half cup of hot Pepsi. Put that in with the powdered sugar. Mix it up. So there we have that. There's still some lumps in there, but the mixture will get that. 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, the same cocoa powder we used before. This is looking lush already. But what's going to really add lusciousness is a stick of softened butter, also known as a half a cup, breaking it up a little. And now I'm going to use the mixer. This is luscious. It's a little thin. That's okay. We're going to leave it to sit while this cools off. Hopefully it'll firm up a little. But even if it doesn't, it looks like a ganache. It's not a ganache. And it will go over the cake wonderfully. So that's it for now. Going to take a little break. Be back in a little while. And we'll do the corn fritters. Okay, so a last minute addition to this episode is a cocktail. It's Sunday night. It's around cocktail hour. Well, you have a cocktail. So I wasn't going to do this because I've done it before, but I've already had one. I'm about to have a second, so you guys need to see it. It's called a BLT, Bourbon Lemon Tonic. A big ice cube. If you don't have big ice cubes, use some small ice cubes. A lemon cut in half. Half a lemon. Don't worry about the seeds. They won't annoy you once you drink the cocktail. Bourbon, but in this case, I prefer rye, but we're still calling it a BLT. Some rye. I put it so it just covers the ice cube. And then tonic. Your favorite tonic. In this case, it's diet tonic. Gotta watch those calories. Because we're going to be eating the Pepsi cake. Lots of calories. Stir it up. It's very refreshing. This is definitely a summer drink. Cheers. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to do the fritters. It's corn season. Corn fritters are fabulous. We need a cup and a half of corn. I've already taken some corn off the cob. Here's some corn that's been husked. You just hold it over the bowl or in the bowl and you slice it off. The bowl keeps the flying kernels from going every which way. Watch your fingers. So in this case, it was 3 cobs for a cup and a half. A little bit more than a cup and a half, but that's fine. Next, we're going to make the batter. So here's our sifter. We're going to put all the dry ingredients through the sifter. Here's my BLT. Cheers. A cup of flour. A 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. You don't absolutely need it, so if you don't want to put it, don't. Baking powder. We need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Not baking soda, baking powder. A pinch of salt. And then I like to put cayenne for a little kick. So here's some cayenne, just a few shakes. All right, more than a few. And then remember, we just hit it like this. Next, we're going to add milk, egg, and shortening. I have 3 cups of Crisco heating up here, and it needs a tablespoon of shortening. Well, Crisco is shortening. So I'm just going to take shortening there and add it to the recipe. Half cup of milk. Here's a 1/4 cup measure. There we go. And 1 egg. Whisk together. And it's pretty dense, but that's okay because we want these to be corn fritters, not fritters. So the corn and the moisture in the corn will loosen it up, but also make sure that they're corn fritters. Okay, so we're ready to fry. I have 3 cups of Crisco in here that are melted down. You want it to get around 375 degrees. I have a 1/4 cup here. I'm going to spray it with Pam. This way, the fritter batter won't stick. So, I'm going to take a 1/4 cup. And it's frying nicely. And you only want to do 2 or 3 at a time. These are only going to take a couple minutes. Try not to get them to stick. There, I just separated them. We'll just watch them. And these are a side dish. They're really delicious. I could almost make a meal out of them. And again, if you have a family, more than 2 people, you can double, triple, or quadruple the recipe. You don't want to crowd the fritters. Let them go for a little while. So I'm watching these and they're getting brown. I'm going to flip them over using my spider. Okay, so I've been flipping these, let's say 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes to get them brown on all the sides. Take them out, put them on a rack on a cookie sheet. Get the extra little bits. We're not going to eat them, but we don't want them in the next batch. Don't they look great? We're going to put them in a 200-degree oven to stay warm. We're now going to wait a minute or two, allowing the oil to come back up to temp, and then we'll do the next batch. So batch number 2 is ready to come out. They definitely cooked much more quickly. Maybe they were a little smaller. So it's been around 2 hours, almost 2 hours. And the cake is pretty cool. And here's our icing. So let's scrape it down and pour it over the cake. Oh, luscious. If you love chocolate or have a sweet tooth, you need to make this cake. So there we have it. Corn fritters and cola cake made with Pepsi. Could you put powdered sugar or syrup on the fritters? Absolutely. Do you need to? No. Don't forget the BLT. Hope you enjoyed this episode of How I Cook. But I forgot my tagline. This isn't the way you should do it. It isn't the right way. This is how I cook. I'm Stephen and Frederick. Thank you and have a good week.